Don't get into it today. There will be many lessons. I hope you all have your notepad and take these lessons to heart. And this is going to be a good one, I promise you. I already did my requisite research. I came in ready to go.
So pay attention, for there are many, many lessons.
Welcome. Welcome to the intelligent world. I tricked you to get you here, stupid. But you guys are here to learn. He writes, my goal is to be able to live for free. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. This man said free. I don't think anyone can live for free. What are your thoughts on house hacking? Don't know precisely what that means. I have a hunch. I don't like the language people use, live for free. Like, oh, I'm going to buy a duplex. I'm going to live in one and I'm going to let the other person pay the mortgage for it by paying rent. You're not living for free. You've just decided to take your profit from your business and use it to pay your mortgage. You're not living for free. You're taking profit from a business and you're allocating it to your mortgage. So you're not living for free. You're still paying a mortgage. Living for free would be if someone purchased a piece of land in Dubai, and then they paid it off, or purchased an apartment or a villa in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and they paid it off. And there you don't pay annual property tax. So there's no taxes. So it's free and clear. And then you were to live in that apartment, you would be living for free if you don't have to pay anyone anything, because you're not paying taxes to the government and you're not paying a landlord. You'd be living for free. So this is just not accurate. And more importantly, the way you're thinking is only poor people are trying to like get freebies and live for free. And like, oh, I did this because it was free, or I ate that because it was free. Like, it disturbs me when people say like, this is college thinking. Like when you're in college, like, oh yeah, come do blah, blah, blah. We're going to give away free pizza and you go because you're a poor college student. Like, do you know that free pizza can get college students to show up to a lot of places? Free pizza can't get me to show up anywhere. You heard me? Like, not at all, because I know free is often the highest price. Number one, I know free is often a lie. Very few things are free. That's just not true. That just means that the person who thinks it's free didn't do enough thinking. You heard me? If you think it's free, you ain't think enough, because it's almost never free. Nothing is free. No one's giving you anything for free. There's nothing wrong with buying a house, but truth be told, if you're a young man, I'd actually probably recommend that you do the following. And I also recommended this to 2 other saints. And I think that this is a really smart idea. Pay attention, folks, because I've been on a search around the world for land, and land is increasingly hard to come by, even harder than in the past.
It's, only the wisest among you will heed this anyway. So I guess it's not like I'm letting out a big secret, but I want to advise you all to get your hands on some land. I've been to so many countries trying to do land deals, and it's nearly impossible for a variety of reasons. I'm extremely suspicious. Number one, let me describe to you, and you've observed this over time. You may have even heard this mentioned in your courses in university and perhaps high school if you went to a proper high school, and most of you didn't if you're in the United States. But the trend has been toward human beings organizing into societies, emptying out suburbs where you can have a proper single-family detached home, going into the cities where it's overcrowded, you're stacked on top of each other, the buildings crowd the sky and block out the sun and the reminder of that which is divine and natural. And what's worse is they try to convince you that that's the best way to live.
But don't lie to us like we're stupid. Come on now, that's number one.
This is, again, marketing, and this leans on the frailty and weakness and human nature and psychology. So, for example, there's so many lies going on. These things are comical to me because I can clearly see the truth.
Come on, man. I see through this like glass. This is glass to me. It's so easy. In the United States, you have the good fortune of a USDA loan, which allows you to buy rural land. Land might be categorized as rural, and it might not even be terribly far from a city. So you get this loan, which can come at 0% interest rate. 0% interest rate. I'm sorry, 0% down. It's like 2 a.m. where I am, and I've been up for a long time. It's 0% down, zero cash out of your pocket. And then it's a very modest interest rate. So you can buy a significant amount of land because you're a young person, you have time. Then you could either get an additional loan, or you can collaborate with family or business partners or friends or what have you, and go ahead and get something drawn up for, okay, well, how many pieces of property can I put on this land? If I were you, I'd probably put some, like, fully built out tiny homes on there, which is to say they have a full kitchen, washer, dryer, hookups, and all that good stuff. And I pop those down on that land and give them a decent little bit of lot space on your greater lot. And then I'd sell them or, rent them out. And I think that's more of an interesting opportunity, especially on the sales side. You probably end up renting them if they're tiny homes. But it's really a great opportunity because it's someone who maybe has more of an apartment budget, but they want a single family detached experience or lifestyle. And you're going to make a tremendous amount of money because tiny homes are fairly low cost and you'll be offering something that's very unique. Not many people will be able to compete with you. And you can also obviously put your own property on that land too, if you so chose. But land is just extremely valuable. And if you decided to build vertically, you could do so and really maximize profits. And you're 26, so you have time. You don't have to be in a rush. So I'd probably sooner recommend that, and you start figuring out the building process, because that's smarter as opposed to being 26 and buying an I home in an I city that's going to be an I distance from civilization, and everything about it is going to be mid, and there's not going to be any real huge opportunity for return. I talk to you because I have something to teach. Many come here to teach, but how many of them are actually teachers? My actual training, I was professionally trained as a teacher, and I've taught at the elementary level, the middle school level, the high school level, and the university level, and the graduate school level in a paid capacity. It's different. Come on now. They're here to make $1. I'm here to make a difference. Understand. And not all of you will. I speak to the leadership class. I don't speak to the dimwits. They'll never get it.
Because the truth is, there ain't many like me. The people who are as smart as I am don't care to talk to you, and they don't care about you. They're part of something called the intelligentsia. Why don't they care to talk to you or teach you anything? Because they're already financially well off. There's no incentive for them to rock the boat or change the system because they benefit within the existing system. And I'm strongly driven by morals and principles because that's what I was raised on. But anybody else that's driving a 6-figure car and lives in $1 million house and has a lot of money, they're not going to try to change the system or help you out. So appreciate me while I'm here.
Y'all can say what you want to say about America, but the shit is still called the land of opportunity. You dig? Come on now, let's talk about it. People often speak about real estate, and real estate can be a good business, and it even seems like a simple business. People call it passive income. Sometimes you hear people say, people pretend as though you sit back and the money flows in, whether you own the apartment and rent it out or you have an Airbnb kind of scheme. It all seems so simple. Or maybe they say they'll fix and flip. Just imagine how silly it is to hear someone say that they're going to acquire a property, fix it, and then flip it, which is to say turn it over quickly in a sale. Well, it's comical because very infrequently are everyday people, real estate developers, construction workers, home builders, carpenters, electricians. They don't have the skill set to fix up a rundown house or a house that needs significant renovations. So they're going to pay a decent amount of money to do so. And when you're buying a house that is already in disrepair, unless you're an expert or a professional, you really don't have a good sense of what the true costs are. Because one thing about real estate that we know for sure is that there are the costs that are apparent and meet the eye and might be presented in the inspection process. Then there's a multitude of other costs that are not immediately clear. I'll give you an example. When I was in my early 20s, I purchased a 3-bedroom home in Baltimore, Maryland with a significant basement that was finished, and as well a very nice upgraded restroom in the basement that was also finished. House was lovely, my first home purchase, and it was not a fixer-upper. It was a house in Ednor Gardens Lakeside, which was very nice in a lovely, diverse neighborhood. And so it was a good starter house. Well, what was the challenge? Well, I thought I bought a house that was in proper order, but there's some things you just don't do when you're new to things. It's the details. Remember, I said when you mention a business with excessive details, now mind you, this was for me to reside in, but let's just say I wanted to purchase the house and turn around and flip it or sell it at a later time for profit. One thing I noticed when I finally took a shower in the basement, which why would I take a shower in the basement? It's a 3-bedroom house with several bathrooms. I'd primarily take a shower in the master bedroom. But one day I took a shower in the basement. I forget precisely why. And the nice thing is that the basement shower, the water gets hot really quickly, which was great and good water pressure. But I'm taking the shower and then I noticed the water starts pooling and it was not going down to the drain. Why? Because the floor was not even. And in fact, it was sloped slightly, ever so slightly away from the drain. This is something that is not apparent to the naked eye. When you look inside that shower floor, your naked eye can't perceive that it's centimeter and a half, slanted away from the drain. So that's something the naked eye wouldn't perceive. Furthermore, you're a young person, your early 20s, a bit uncertain, got your hands on a little bit of cash. You want to buy your first house. You're excited, you're emotional, you're young, inexperienced. And here's the thing, those real estate agents are not your friends. Oh, Marquette, I'm a real estate agent. Well, let's keep it real here. They work off of commission. Commission is only paid out when there's a sale. If you wanted to purchase a home, you're a young man. If you were to purchase a home, it'd probably be somewhere within, no more than $250,000, $250,000, which as far as home prices go is very low. And that being the case, there's an underlying asset. So the bank is willing to take a greater risk on you because there's an asset that they can seize if you screw up. One thing you won't be able to get are personal loans, right? Like if you're like, hey, I need 10,000 in cash, or I need 100,000 in cash to do fill in the blank with, and no, you're not going to be granted that. You'd be granted a mortgage, less than favorable interest rate, which is fine because buying a house is generally a good thing. So there's nothing to worry about there. If you wanted to get an auto loan for a car, you can still get an auto loan because there's an underlying, I don't like using the word asset, but there's something for the loan maker to repossess. So you'll still be able to get a loan for a car. You'll just have higher monthly payments than you would have otherwise. And truth be told, at your age, there's really no need to get a car with payments. You buy a piece of crap for $4,000 that runs reasonably well and carry on from there. If you're in a city that you need a car like Los Angeles or a city in Texas. Otherwise, well, what would you need credit for? And these are the important questions we have to ask ourselves, because sometimes like we allow the quote unquote matrix or the establishment to make us think things are important that are not important. Credit is useful, but I'd always rather have money than credit. So would I rather have a 800 credit score? Would I rather have $30,000 in cash? Me, I'd rather have $30,000 in cash for sure. An 800 credit score, you can certainly like get a Rolls Royce on credit for sure, but it's still credit. And credit's not money. So if you're going to get a property, and usually what happens with a lot of folks who start on the real estate side is that they're getting a single family detached, or since you're on the East Coast, you might get a row home. And usually you're getting it with a loan under your name. You're not getting it as an investment property. And the major difference is that, you might be able to put down between 0% and 5% on a house that you get under your own name that you're going to occupy theoretically. If it's an investment property, now you all of a sudden have to put up 30%, which is a lot more. And you might need business credit, and you would instead get that house through an LLC rather than your own personal name. And so being that you're a young man, you want to get into the real estate game, you'd probably start with your own, getting a house under your own name, which you can still do with less than ideal credit. Also, you can have a cosigner. I don't know how much your parents really really support, but you seem like a clean-cut young man. You said you live with your parents still, so I'm guessing they trust you at some level. You've completed a degree in accounting, so that's good. So you can probably get them as a cosigner if need be. And real estate's a good game, and New York is a great place to play that game. So I think that you're still good to go. So don't imagine more obstacles than are actually there. That's number one. And here's another crazy piece is that, and you're from the home of Donald Trump. And one thing that Donald is good at is making deals. And what you find out in business is that a lot of it is making deals, whether you call that finessing or finding the back door or doing things in an alternative method. There's so many ways to get things done in business if you're a real hustler, if you're ambitious, and especially if you got a little bit of change to play with. Like, you'd be astounded at how much the banks are wanting to give you a loan as much as you want to get a loan, and they'll pull strings for you. This is what I mean. The whole subprime mortgage crisis was the banks trying to give out as many loans as possible, because that's how banks make money, right? So you need to find a way to get the bank to give you a loan. I'll give you one example. Pro tip, people tend to think that if you're going to get a loan, you need to give your tax records to a bank, which is standard. But there are also banks that will use your bank statements. So they don't need your tax records at all. They'll just look at how much money you've had in your bank for the last 6 months. Most people don't know that. So I say that to say that there's always a way to get something done. If you're willing to do a little bit of research and be crafty, you can make things happen. And if you keep that mindset, you're going to be wildly successful. Trying to do things in the traditional way or the way everyone else does it or the way that's popular, that's usually the loser way. Because remember, most people are losers. So whatever is popular or common is usually the worst way to do it. You want to do it the way that people don't even know about, right? That's the way you want to get things done. But if you're just an average Joe and there's a new construction home, you buy a new construction home and then you want to sell it in 3 years, you're about to break even low key. Like once you do the real calculations, you're going to be about breaking even. You might lose a couple bucks. You're paying, you're dealing with closing costs. You're dealing with real estate agents on both sides. You're dealing with inflation, taxes. Come on, you're breaking even. You wait out to 5 years, maybe you make a couple bucks. But unless you're looking at significant time horizons like 10 years plus, then you're not really going to be making money unless you're a real estate developer and real estate investor or you're flipping houses. But if you're an individual consumer, you're not really making money on real estate. You might use it as a store of value, but I wouldn't want to buy a house unless I know that I really want to be entrenched in this community and living there, which is often not the case. That is blanket advice. Anytime people try to recommend something that's going to work for everyone, it probably is bad advice, is what I mean. And I tell people this all the time. I had to tell a little broad this recently. In fact, I had to tell another chick this at the airport. She said, "Oh yeah, well, a house is an investment." I said, "No, a house is a house. A house is not an investment unless you're investing in the house. Like you're doing it as an investment. If you intend to live in it, it's not an investment. If you sell the house and you make money, fantastic. But if you're shopping for a primary residence, like an owner-occupied house, you need to get the house because you want that house. It's something that's going to make you feel comfortable. The amenities nearby, grocery store, proximity to good schools, the weather systems, the climate is okay with you. That's why you get the house. And you ideally, if you're going to buy a house with just to own, and you're going to go into a 30-year mortgage, you want to go into it not with the idea that you're going to refinance sometime soon, but with the idea that if you are locked in for 30 years, you can deal with it. You'll be comfortable with it, especially within your budget. So a house is not an investment. And a lot of people think that, and that's because they don't really understand business, and the devil is in the details. Most of you guys are not Joshua, who's on here. He's on the investor side. He's not buying residence for him to live in. He's investing. That's a different game. A lot of people say a house is an investment, but they're talking about the house that they're about to live in. They got an FHA loan, they got a basic loan, and they're about to live in the house. That's not an investment, ladies and saints. Here's the funny things. You might even turn around and sell your house, 5 years later, and it's sold for more than you bought it for, but you forgot about the taxes that you paid. You forgot about all the improvements you did on the home. You forgot about the fact that when you moved in the home, it didn't have blinds. You paid for that. The backyard was raw. You had to put down turf and pavers, and you had to put a water softener in. It's like once you add all that up, you did not make money on that house. I'm promising you. Like very few people are making money on their house, even if it sells for a higher price than they bought it. And often it's not, because you're going to have to pay 3% to the seller and buyer broker. You might cover closing costs as the seller. So you're not making money on it. It's just that you're not conscious of the fact that you're not making money on it because you're a bad business person. You're not paying attention to the details. And that's just the reality of humankind. Is like they ignore the details at their own detriment. And it's primarily because the details hold the truth, and the truth is sometimes ugly. You guys remember, just a pro tip, because you'll watch all these YouTube videos. No one will ever say, do this. I'm saying do this. Now, mind you, I want to make a legal disclaimer. I'm not giving anyone financial advice, legal advice. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a financial advisor. I am, doing a satirical piece and a comedic piece. I'm not giving anyone advice of any kind. That being said, if there are a number of strong currencies, I think two of them are, from the Middle East. Obviously, the British pound is quite strong. I think the euro, I don't have as much faith in as much as there's a large body, regulating it, and there's a lot of countries and actors and opinions involved. So I think monetary policy is a bit
harder to control when you have more hands in the pot. I like the way the British move. I think that the British, have some smart people over there, even though they're woefully liberal. So I wouldn't mind, holding on to some British pounds in addition to dollars. And so what I'm talking about right now is real big boss talk. And I hope you guys all get to this level to where in your bank accounts with an S, no one should have one bank account. No one should have one account in one country. Not if you're really serious about money. You got a couple accounts. You definitely want to have some British pounds in there. I'd take, at least one currency from the Middle East. Probably not the Jordanian dinar, but another currency from the Middle East that's strong. I'd hold some currency, hold some funds in that. And then, of course, I'd hold some US dollars because I already have US dollars. So there you go. There's 3 different currencies I would hold cash in. And then, of course, I would push even more money into assets, land, some real estate, commodities, things like this, maybe even a little bit of gold. Perhaps some Bitcoin or crypto if there's a crash, but that would be a very small amount for me. And that would really be risk capital. I wouldn't be doing that as a store of value. I'd be doing that to make some money, to play with money. Anyways.
Let us end this the way we always end this, with the creed of the SASN. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The creed of the SASN.
I am going to be who I truly am.
Because I am remarkable.
And I'm going to strive every moment
To show the greatest part. To show the greatest part.
To show the greatest part of who I am.
Until next time.